I went to the Bayside yesterday, took a nice long drive, went over there, sat in my favorite restaurant, and had my favorite fish and chips with a bit of Greek salad. And as always, it was perfection itself. This particular restaurant has never been known to disappoint, at least not me. Um, and I've been going there for, wow, quite a few years, maybe 6 to 8 years. I've lost count. But it's just such a favorite place, and the people who serve there are just really so professional. And I mean, and when I say professional, I don't mean that they're impersonal. I mean that they really know what it means to serve. So I had my beautiful meal, and after I finished my meal, I actually, before and after I finished my meal, I did quite a bit of writing. And then I went to the point, which is where, literally at the end of the little peninsula, if you like, and just sat and watched the the bay, the water. It was just gorgeous, and it was so peaceful, and there was this beautiful breeze that kept blowing through, and I watched every what life happen, and it was just simply so delightful. I saw different people, uh, a grandpa with his grandson who'd come, and by this time it was starting to get dark. Not really dark, but dusk. The sun was setting, and the side of the bay that I was looking onto was the eastern front, while the sun was setting on the western front, and there were these gorgeous hues of orange and gold and pink and red. But last night, sorry, or yesterday evening, I should say, or late afternoon, I was looking onto the eastern side, because actually I wasn't even aware that this was in the forecast. But yes, it was the night of the blood red moon, supposedly. And while I was in conversation with some people on my phone, as I was looking onto the bay and watching all the different people, as I said, the uh, the man and what appeared to be his grandchild had come, and by the way they were behaving, they were there for the moon, because both of them whipped out their phones and were taking pictures. And in fact, the, the the person that I think might be the granddad, I don't know, it could have been his dad, for all I know. But anyway, he whipped out his tripod and had a camera ready to take pictures or videos, I don't know. And then there were couples of all kinds of ages walking by earlier in the afternoon, or early in the evening, as I sat there. Gosh, I'm getting all mixed up, because it was late afternoon to evening. So yes, there were people. There was this gorgeous little family of man and a woman. The woman was heavily pregnant, and they had a little boy with them and a dog, and the little boy was having such fun with the dog, and it was just so delightful to watch everything. And I wish I had been able to catch the moon in its glorious color, but I didn't. I did take some videos and pictures, but as you'll see, but they did not capture the actual color of the moon. And I realized, as I often do, that I'm missing the moment by trying to capture the moment. That instead of just being there and just enjoying it, and it was just such a beautiful, beautiful work of art, of nature's work of art. This gorgeous, deep set, orange, red, striated moon against a shimmering dark body of water, and the silhouette of mangrove trees, and then a boat going across the water. Just magical, really. So that was the scene, that was the environment that I was in. And one of the things that came up in the conversation was about how people are trying to find their place in life, and often they do that by through the job or the professional career, however they want to look at it, and that gives them a place in life. That gives them not just an income and a stable income, but it gives them a status, a place, a recognizable place in life. And we were asking and wondering, because some people are not inclined to do the 9 to 5. Some people are not inclined to do the accepted or expected regimen of so-called full-time employment. And they are looking for something that meets their spirit, that meets their soul. I'm using these words because those are the words that people seem to understand, and what I'm really trying to get at is that it is about something that is beyond our intellect, that we feel very deeply and instinctively and intuitively, a natural impulse that we certainly feel and is expressed in our body. And so this question of how do we do this when the world doesn't seem to recognize this natural impulse and wants to force us, or through their expectations of us, want to push us towards certain ways of being, certain configurations that are more acceptable than others, configurations of how we live our life. And so I was sharing how, it is understandable, because for us to feel the discomfort and the tension of, on the one hand, wanting to follow that natural impulse, wanting to honor and respond to it and live by it, and then having the pressure of society and the people within us who mean well, our families, and friends who mean well. They think that this would be the best for us because a 9 to 5 or a more conventional kind of job is less risky, it's more stable, it is more reliable in terms of its income. And then, then whatever else you do with your life, it's not quite as much a strain, and you're unlikely to fall off the rails, as it were. So we were talking about this, and I was sharing how, we've been conditioned to accept that this is how everyone should do it, or at least most of us have been expected to do it. And along with that come these other carrots on the stick, these other assurances, go to school, do well in school, get to uni, do well at uni, at least pass, get your degree, that's your passport, that is your proof that you're capable, and then go get a job, and then if you haven't found a partner by that stage, well, find a partner, and then get your house and settle down and have kids, right? Most of us have, at least at some stage in our lives, felt the pressure to conform to that script, to live by that script. And the thing that we miss, that we fail to understand, is the underlying assumption in what that script is based on. And that underlying assumption is that our peace and well-being and happiness will come from all these external measures and all these external manifestations of relationship, of objects, house, car, job, and so on. That's the underlying assumption. That is the belief that we all unknowingly often subscribe to, and we continue to express that belief. We continue to live by it. We expect our partners to behave in certain ways. We expect people in the world to behave in certain ways, and when they don't, they seem to rob us of our happiness and our peace of mind. We expect the job, and one of the people there, so by the way, this was a meditation session that I was facilitating, and so one of the people there was saying how they their happiness seems to fluctuate. Once upon a time they thought they had landed the dream job, and then they find that the job isn't quite so dreamy after all. There are times when it's pretty I won't use extreme words, but when it's pretty crap. And likewise with the partner, and so on and so forth. What we think is the answer to our prayers, the final realization of our dreams, well, the dream state doesn't seem to last very long. Pretty soon, something they do annoys the heck out of us, or something they do demonstrates how really little they understand us, and so on. And so, as I reminded all of us, the underlying assumption is that these people and these objects and these circumstances, the job, the status, the role, and so on, all of these are what give us happiness. Well, they don't, and we know that, because one day the very same thing or person that was the answer to all our prayers and to our dream, the realization of a dream, one day that person is the best thing on earth, and then the next moment they've done something that, oh my God, you can't even believe it's happened. And then they keep doing that, and you think, good Lord, what have I done? What have I landed myself in? So, understanding that happiness, our peace and well-being, does not come from anything or anyone outside of us. It is who and what we already are. That analogy that people often use, the fish swimming in the water and asking, what is water? Not knowing that it already is, where all of what it needs and wants is there. And so are we. We are the very water or the ocean of our happiness, our well-being, our freedom. And nothing outside of that can ever give any of this to us. So remembering that, but not just remembering it, but giving ourselves permission to experience the source and the true nature of ourselves, the source of our happiness and our well-being, is who we truly are, and therefore giving ourselves permission to experience this again and again and again, so that we are less and less reliant on other people and things to give us what we already are. And not only are we less reliant, but we are less likely to blame them unfairly for denying us our happiness and well-being. Now, one of the other things that I was asked, so why do we do this? Why do we do this? Why are we so conditioned to believe in that our happiness and so on comes from other people and things? And why do we fail to realize that we are the source of our own happiness and well-being? To which I had this to say: we don't live in isolation as discrete entities, as discrete human beings. We are part of this wondrous, ever-changing mix of beings. And we are all impacting and influencing each other. We are in this constant flow of information. So we are always impacting and influencing each other. When the temperature goes down, our bodies feel the cold. For example, when it is nighttime, our bodies move differently. When there's darkness, our bodies move differently to when there's light, right? And so we need to understand that we are in this interactive state of beingness with all other beings. And so we are impacted, and our body is the first to show us and tell us, if we pay attention to it, that we are being impacted. But being impacted by everything and everyone around us does not strip us of our agency. In other words, it doesn't deny us the ability to make choices, to train our attention and our focus onto what we want rather than what we don't want. It doesn't strip us of that agency. Now, admittedly, that agency is something that we've always had, but that we've been kind of conditioned out of because of this assumption that everything else has an impact on us, that everything else, our happiness and well-being is determined by everything else external to us. So through that belief, we have lost our sense of agency or lost touch with it. And consequently, we tend to feel almost powerless sometimes, a victim of things around us. So here is the distinction I'm trying to make. Everything does influence and impact us to some degree or another, but nothing strips us of our ability to choose how we respond. And that choice of how we respond for most of us will have to be retrained, recultivated, because we've somehow lost touch with it. Well, not somehow, I've just explained how we've lost touch with it. And one of the ways in which we can do it is simply to get still and pay attention. Pay attention without judgment and without story. That's what some people call meditation. It's paying attention, letting the thinking mind and all its stories subside, and just paying attention, especially paying attention in the body, to the body. Again, another mini lecture that I didn't expect to be giving. But once again, sharing what I have learned over the years and what has actually become my own practice and way of living. Don't always succeed, but it certainly pulls me out of any kind of victimized mode that I might be in, or helplessness or powerlessness, and helps me refocus and realize that my happiness and well-being is entirely within me. And when I learn to give my attention to it, I feel it and I live it. If you have any thoughts on this, please feel free to share them in the comments. And in the meantime, wherever you are, I do wish you the complete awareness of your own true nature, which is happiness and well-being, abundance and freedom, peace and inexhaustible joy. Bye for now.